sometimes people take a couple of minutes or a few seconds to appear in these breakout rooms. So I'll just wait, but very nice to be talking to you all. I'm just scanning the screen to see if Chisholm appears, as she was going to be our rapporteur. There, Chisholm, I see you. You're connected, everything's okay, that's great to know.
Yes.
We have 40 minutes. We, I think, are a group of 17 of us, and we have 4 questions to consider. That being the case, I think it's worth taking 3 or 4 minutes at the start, just so that everyone can introduce themselves quickly. So would ask that to introduce yourself with just your name and the organization you represent, or your individual role in this space, and then we can dive into the questions. So possibly after introducing yourself, hand on to someone else that you can see on the screen, and I will try and make sure that everyone says hello. So my name's Adam Fraser. I'm the Chief Executive of Laureus Sport for Good, and really know many of you and some new faces, but really, really pleased to be in the discussion. And I will hand, just because he is to my right on the screen as I look at it, I will hand to Eli.
Hi, everyone. Great to be with all of you today. I'm Eli Wolf.
Eli, I can't hear you. I'm not sure if that's my issue or yours.
Can you hear me now okay?
Yeah, I can hear him. I can hear him.
Hi, everyone. Eli Wolf here. Great to be with all of you today. With the Power of Sport Lab. Also have academic affiliations with Brown University and then also University of Connecticut. Great to be with everyone. I'll pass it over to Paul Hunt.
Thanks, Eli. Paul Hunt, Senior Project Manager on Sport and Dev. Nice to see lots of familiar faces and some new ones. And passing it over to Nevena.
Great to take it from you, Paul. Great to see you all. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Nevena Vukashinovic. I'm a BCW Public Affairs and Communications expert consultant, but I've been working across different topics, and sport and tech are some of them, with ENGZO, with International Football Federation, with different working groups at EU level and UN level as well. Currently, I'm one of the co-founders of the European Green Sports Hub Europe, and looking forward to discuss together. I'm passing it on to Richard Wade. Richard Wade, the floor is yours.
Hi, thanks, Nevena. I'm Richard Way. I'm the CEO of Sport for Life, which is working to improve the quality of sport and develop physical literacy. And we're headquartered in Canada, but do work globally. And I'd like to pass it along to one of the experts that we've worked with for many years, Dr. David Legge.
Thank you, Richard. My name is David Legge. I'm a professor in Western Canada in Calgary. As you can tell, the sun has not come up yet here. I'm a volunteer president of the International Federation of Adapted Physical Activity. I will now pass it on to Sarah Hillier from Tennessee.
Thank you, David. I am Sarah Hillier from the University of Tennessee Center for Sports, Peace, and Society, and we are the implementing partner of the U.S. Department of State's Global Sports Mentoring Program, working on empowering women and girls through sports and promoting the rights of people with disability through sports. I am going to pass it on. Let's say, Juan, let's go to you.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Juan Salazar. I'm a governing board member at the International Paralympic Committee. I also work as a consultant for the Inter-American Bank of Development, mostly on implementation of the CRPD in the Americas region. Happy to be here, and even more so seeing so many familiar faces and friends. So over to one of them, Matias Costa. Long time no see.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Juanpa. Very nice to see you all. My name is Matias Costa. I work for the Austrian Disability Sports Federation, where I do sport development. Yeah, I will pass on to Georgia. that okay?
Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. So
Yes.
I'm Georgia Dimitropoulou. I work for UNODC and the Youth Crime Prevention Through Sports initiative, which basically will promote and use sports in the context of crime prevention and as a tool for skills development, learning, also safe spaces approaches to build resilience at individual but also community level and address challenges and risks and protective factors related to violence and crime. So I pass it over to, now I'm not sure if who is left, let's say to Anna. She already spoke or not?
No, I have not. Georgia, thank you, everyone. My name is Anna Palakane, and I am a faculty and staff at the University of Maryland in the US. And I do work now. I'm a senior IT accessibility specialist. And one of my roles this past years in our very large campus of over 50,000 people was really to ensure that our technology, best practice, everything that we did in the transition in the pandemic to the online environment was to ensure accessibility for our faculty and staff and students with disabilities. And I do come from a background on adapted sports, and I have done some work in the past with the State Department, with some of the USAID grants and some other projects related to sports diplomacy and really using sports towards disability rights. It's really great to be here with you today, and great to see some familiar faces as well. Gabrielle, turn it over to you.
So, hello everyone, my name is Gabriel Maia. I'm from Brazil and I'm working with UNDESA as a consultant for the end of this year. So I was a bit in charge of finding all of you around the globe. So I'm really glad to see some familiar faces and some that I could get to know about the work and bring together. And I'm looking really much forward to this discussion. And would pass it to Katia, a professor here from Brazil.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katia Rubio. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. I'm professor at the University of São Paulo. I'm a psychologist, and I use the social psychology to understand the sport. I used to work with storytelling by Olympic athletes, and I studied the contemporary imaginary, the sportive imaginary. That's all.
Has anyone not introduced themselves? It becomes a challenge of spotting here. Joanna, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here, and thanks to Gabrielle for the invitation. I'm Joanna Deagle. I'm the Managing Director of the Centre for Access to Football in Europe, which is CAFE, and we're a UEFA football and social responsibility partner, and we provide advice and guidance to UEFA and FIFA and their member associations to improve the match day experience for disabled fans. So we work on spectatorship opportunities and dialogue with disabled fans. Thank you very much.
Ludovic, did I see you put your hand?
Yes, thank you for inviting me. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Ludovic Do. I'm working at Peace and Sport, the international organization based in Monaco. So maybe all of you is aware of the organization through the forum, but we are also developing Peace through Sport contents. And I'm in charge of the methodology, which is available through a mobile app. So I will be pleased to speak about this new tool during this conversation. So I think that I will pass it on to Kim, that doesn't speak yet.
Thank you very much. Excited to meet you all. My name is Kim. I'm working with UNESCO as a sport and physical education consultant here in Hanoi, Vietnam. So looking forward to having a chat today. I think that's everyone. No, Chisholm.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Chisom Bono Ezoke from Nigeria. I'm a broadcast journalist, and I'm also the founder of Autumn Inspire, a project that uses sports to empower girls through sports. So who else who hasn't spoken? I don't know.
Maybe everyone. Thank you, everyone. Really valuable, certainly from my side, to hear everyone's background. We have, I think, 30 minutes to address these questions now, so we'll dive in. I posted the first in the chat, but to summarize, the question is, what experience and best practices can be shared regarding how traditional technologies, ICTs, and digital technologies are being used or can be used to advance sport for development and peace during and post-COVID-19? A broad question. I think we've heard from some already of the, it was clear there's some experts on this call, particularly in areas such as disability and inclusion, which is clearly something that is both an area where technology can play a vital role in inclusion and an area where lack of intention can lead to exclusion. So that may be one place to start, but I will open to the floor for what experiences and best practices we believe can be shared. And as noted, Chisholm will be recording these to share back with the wider group, or to share a summary back with the wider group.
Adam, I can start if you
please.
So one of the things I just want to say that I think is going to be extremely important, and again, a lot of us here works with sports toward disability rights, is that as we are implementing new technologies, digital technologies, new e-tools, new apps, we are procuring new technologies. Zoom is a perfect example. I think as we make recommendations on best practices, for any implementation of digital accessibility across the world, is that we make sure that the technology is secure, there's privacy involved, and there's also is ensured accessibility of the technologies. Otherwise, all the work that we do to reach our population with disabilities, people are going to be excluded. And in parallel with that would be digital literacy is the second one that goes with that, right? And the third one, which can begin with, is access to technology. I think there's the three of them. And I would say, not in particular order, but like, there's access to technology, there is digital literacy, and there is also ensuring that technology and best practice are accessible. And an example today, I know that there was an apology of some of the videos not being captioned, but like organizations need to ensure that there's the basic level of access in any program, and we need to be examples of it. And if there's anyway, I just want to kind of say that, and I think that's a broad statement, and we can speak about what does that mean and what are the best practices. But the W3C has web accessibility guidelines, the WCAG, which is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, that is recognized internationally, and that's really the beginning. And in our arena of adapted sports for social justice, and that all the work that we do, that has to occur, to ensure access. That's one of the basic components that I want to bring that in. And it's been quite a interesting shift that has been happening in our campus, in our local organizations that we've been working with, and now even with our organization into adapted sports, and talking with anybody who works with adapted sports. I think we are very used to, and we have a lot of knowledge, and I mean, we globally have a lot of knowledge on physical accessibility, but we need to have a lot of efforts in educating people, and I mean us, on digital accessibility. What does that mean? What are the best practices for everything that we do, like including the Zoom call and having live captioning and having, captions, and like we are broadcasting this to YouTube right now to thousands and millions of people. Like, you gotta ensure accessibility. So that's my take in a couple minutes here. So
I guess I would just want to, following that comment, I think one best practice or core principle would be the user expert aspect. Just building on everything that Anna said, but I think one thing that I need to make sure we incorporate into this conversation from an inclusive design perspective is ensuring the user expert aspect. And so that would include persons with disabilities, and to make sure that when we're developing these designs and everything that Anna said, we need to ensure that the user experts are included, because if you don't involve people and get their input, then oftentimes you may design you're trying to take a ladder up the tree, but you may end up taking the ladder, off the tree and you fall. So I think it's important that we incorporate that principle, that best practice of user expert.
Does the group have some examples perhaps of areas where they've seen that best practice being implemented and seen this done well in the use of technology?
Yeah.
So I'm not
Please,
sorry.
Georgia.
Okay, I just have to, first of all, to echo the importance of accessibility, but underline that, of course, people with disabilities, it is one group of people that also have in mind and ensure accessibility. But from our work as a UNODC, working in particular in slums areas or very marginalized and poor communities, the issue of access itself, it is an issue. And we have done activities in countries. One of the ways that we used, and also I'll try to answer in your question, how we have dealt in this pandemic with our activities, was to have, for example, online sport challenges for young people, but also trying to engage families, not only individuals, in order to come together and participate. We have countries that this wasn't possible. We did it in Uzbekistan, for example, with a great success and having around 30,000 submission, which was in a 3 weeks time. And we did it in a neighboring country, Tajikistan, where we received 0. And we did it then to giving the possibility of sending things by post. And then we received a lot because, it says how much this can be this imbalance and how inequalities can grow and the issues of accessibility. So from our perspective and using sports mainly as a tool, as a vehicle for sports learning, for skills development, empowerment, we see that sport challenges, as I said, it work in many occasions, and at least to maintain contact with the young people, to the engagement, to participation, but from other aspects didn't work so well. Other work that we did, we used the technology within, particularly in the COVID time, to develop national campaigns using sports athletes in partnership with sports organizations to reach out to young people. That was quite timely and successful, I think, in this time. The video that it was broadcasted, it was developed in the context of a national campaign in Kyrgyzstan under the program. And actually, by coincidence, today we're launching a new campaign in UNODC in Uzbekistan in partnership with the National Olympic Committee, where we're happy to see that we work also with Paralympic athletes to pass 3 key messages about the importance of inclusion, of empowerment to young people. So these are the 2 main ways from our side that we use, let's say, the technology within the COVID time. But we had really to adjust our activities, and I said there were issues, unfortunately, that cannot be replaced, through the technology, and we should have this in mind. But our great challenge was the accessibility, in particular in the marginalized community. That was a great challenge that, unfortunately, I have to admit, we weren't always able to overcome and facilitate this access.
And Georgia, if I could summarize quickly there, what we're hearing in both sides of what's been said so far is that this is accessibility is the key question here, but accessibility needs considering through multiple lenses, be that access to technology in a particular area, a particular community, be it people with disabilities, be it any one of the long list of areas that we often see reflected in our non-digital world are the same here. I will post the second question in the chat because I think it carries on from this, but I don't think we need to change the topic as such. What would be key options and sustainable actions digital technology can play to create a new era of sport and physical activities for the well-being of all? I think that continues the conversation here of areas of best practice we've seen or recommendations that the group would be calling. We'll come on to more detailed recommendations in one of the further questions, but areas of best practice and best impact, I will give the floor again.
Yeah.
Please, Katja.
I think the first of all is the access to the technology. In some areas, there is no Wi-Fi, there is no connection in general, neither cell phones or computers. I think that the first barrier is to have some equipment to receive the message about the physical activity. In some cases, it's too expensive, the access to the technology. And I think it's necessary to offer cheaper conditions to people participate on the great effort that is the physical activity.
Thank you, Katya.
Sorry,
Please, Kim.
Sorry, is it? I was just going to jump in and say that I'm going to post this in the chat now. At UNESCO with UNICEF here in Hanoi, we kind of designed a very small, but I think really effective initiative, which was building on this discussion about access and thinking about, okay, well, let's think about exercises and activities for kids specifically, because a lot of the time when we were thinking about exercise, especially during the pandemic and sport, a lot of it was tailored for adults, or the messaging was very adult. So just to give you an example of something that we did, this was a while ago, a website that you can have a look at if you want, but a way for us to start thinking about, okay, how can we make sure that kids are included in this conversation as well for ensuring inclusive physical activity and during a time of social isolation.
And I think, thank you, Kim. I'm interested if others have examples of where they've seen these challenges that have been highlighted overcome successfully, where we've seen lack of access to online technology. I know as Laureus, we've worked with some of our partners in South Africa, in Kenya, at the very basic level to ensure we're providing computer hubs and areas such as that to allow access. But I think there will probably be far more creative things happening, and fascinated to know if the group have seen any useful or strong examples in practice.
It's David Lyke here, representing the International Federation of Adaptive Physical Activity. I think there's lots of examples from global corporations who are, and this is specific now to people with disabilities, I recognize, but I think you can translate these ideas across the spectrum of other marginalized groups. But examples like Microsoft creating game consoles that children with disabilities can use to play online gaming. Not that I'm necessarily promoting more online gaming as a father of 3 teenage sons. BMW have partnered to build racing wheelchairs. Samsung has partnered with swimmers with visual impairments to create swim caps that allow them to know when they're getting closer to pool edges. Arc'teryx, which is a clothing manufacturer, partnered recently with people that have amputations to make prosthetics that mimic mountain goats so that they can hike more easily. The difficulty, of course, with many of these things is that they come with a significant cost. And so perhaps there are then other groups that are marginalized and not able to participate as a result of the socioeconomic challenges. So I think as far as promoting the sustainability of this moving forward, it's for groups like this to recognize and to promote and to congratulate those corporations that do produce technological ways to include more people, again, regardless of whether it's disability or Aboriginal, Indigenous, First Nations people, whether it's gender diversity, sexual orientation diversity, et cetera, but that they do it in sustainable ways that cross the boundaries from a socioeconomic perspective, and to say, and to promote them and to congratulate them and to use them as exemplars for other companies and corporations to mimic.
To go slightly off the script of the questions, but I think worth considering and touched on in the introduction, I think it's worth noting as well the risks and the need for the right safeguarding to be in place. Again, we this year, as we saw during COVID-19, a lot of our programs suddenly pivot to digital delivery. We're helping them play catch up a little in terms of pivoting to digital safeguarding, which wasn't something they'd thought of or had to think of before in their delivery. So again, I would maybe just say to the group, have we seen examples of people mitigating risks to young people, to users, to the ultimate beneficiaries of the services being provided?
Adam, on a local scale, this is Sarah from the University of Tennessee. One thing that we've seen in some of our partners that are working in the slum areas of Nairobi is they've taken digital content that they have been able to access, and then through a mentoring program that they've created, they now have young girls that are taking that content and have created a radio show, drama, informational, and so on. So they're disseminating it because radio is much more accessible than the technologies for Zoom and all the conferences and information. So I think that's one really creative way. And as well through the mobile technologies, they're taking what they are consuming through Zoom and disseminating that across mobile. So mobile and radio. And so they're having kids through radio shows do workouts together and so on. So they don't have the visual privilege, but certainly it is a great way to disseminate that's more accessible to.
So perhaps use of different platforms still being a key part of this in terms of ensuring widest accessibility.
Yeah, if I may say, from our partners also we see the use of television, TV, particularly also in African countries. This was something quite common to overcome these challenges and reach out to, to communities that do not have access to Wi-Fi, for example. And it seems that it was quite successfully done. Also from our activities, we also use how we call it, the screens in the public places, in parks, or so they could broadcast their content and have activities in open space with the young people. That was also something that it worked well. But talking about use of technology for sports for development and peace, I just want to share my concerns that we see working these difficult times. As an organization where we use sports, as I say, as a tool, actually to deliver not sports outcomes as most of sports for development and peace organizations. I think one thing that is lacking, and we might need to all look at it more, is to develop expertise on how to use technology effectively in order to maintain these key outcomes of sports for development and peace, the interaction, because often technology is used, but it's a one-way communication. And of course, it is very challenging to do this, but we've noticed also that we don't, include us as well, and our, the people that work in the field, we don't necessarily have the expertise and the knowledge to effectively use the technology. And certainly something that we have to look more in order to be able, instead of using technology for the physical activity itself, to be able also to take out of all these non-sport outcomes of the interactive, the participation, the inclusion, the empowerment, these things that are very important for our activities, no matter in which area we're working. And also develop curriculums, for example. One of our partners, grassroots soccer organization, they have developed a quite interesting, I think, curriculum with the sessions on how to continue delivering the activities online and trying to maintain this interactive way and engagement of young people. That was interesting. And another thing that we did, taking a particular on safety, online safety, as UNODC, we did in certain countries, we provided training to our sports coaches and the trainers we use for our activities on this topic in order to raise awareness on these issues, but also to strengthen their capacity when they reach out to young people to also communicate on these issues with them.
If I may jump in, hello everybody, Nevena Vukašinović from Brussels, BCW, Public Affairs Agency. So one of our clients, and we are working also for Nike, but what Nike, and why I'm mentioning Nike, because they are doing a lot in terms of education, especially educating girls and coaches and making this bridge between the practice and technologies and using well technologies. So we can definitely learn from the private sector and brands in how to better integrate IT skills into the sports world. But what we are doing for another client, which is European Commission and the campaign, pan-European campaign called European Week of Sport with the hashtag #BeActive, is that we have tried to use this pandemic time to go where our target group are when it comes to the social media, when it comes to the technologies or apps they're using, and then to try to develop the messaging and engagement around where they were already spending a lot of time. So we were, and also we were trying to bring those different target groups in the same moments together. So we have been creating BeActive Hour and have using Instagram Live as a platform to get people active in the specific messaging that we were developing. We were using Reels, we were using TikTok platforms. So literally adjusting the messaging and adjusting the usage where our target groups were already naturally being present. And then on the other side, what is, I think, also from the one who is using and are not afraid of saying that gaming could be also useful for development of different skills. I would like also to say that it's important that we maintain the enough level of being not using technologies in whatever practice we would like to develop or whatever curriculum we would like to develop. Yeah, that's for now, but I will interfere also a bit later.
Ivana, we as Laureus and with our partners at the Sol Foundation funded Kids in the Game in New York to run an esports curriculum that was targeted at bringing people kind of away from esports and also into regular programming. So they used esports as a hook to reach kids they wouldn't normally reach with their sport for development programming, but then gradually brought them into the programming. So I think that's an example of what you're saying. We have just over 7 minutes left, and I think the kind of the meat of the issue here, and for Chizom when she is reporting back, are the recommendations that we would be making. So I pasted questions 3 and 4 into the chat. They are, how can UNDESA help build these things, elaborate on these things in partnership with different stakeholders, and which priority steps could be taken within the context of the UN Decade of Action to support the role of technology in this space. I think there are some similarities between those questions, so I would open to the floor and being mindful of time, try and urge us to be concise. But in any of those recommendations, we would like going on the record back to UNDESA. Juan, I think you just raised your hand.
Thank you, Adam. Yes. Well, first of all, I would like to say that technology has been a fundamental ally of persons with disabilities to access sports, from our wheelchairs to our prosthetics to any other reasonable accommodations that gives us basic access to sports. It's a key ally. The problem here is when that technology opens up in the developing and the developed world, meaning I think that for para-athletes in particular, that gap of money of the expensive wheelchair for wheelchair rugby makes a total difference when it comes to competition. That's one example of many, many, many. On good practices, I would like to point out that social media has also been a fundamental ally for development projects all over the world. I mean, people with disabilities in developing countries are in Facebook and are in WhatsApp, and this is how the networks connect. As you know, the sports requires community, and it is through these social medias that I know have many devils in disguise, but for creating the networks that support sports are fundamental. Recommendations moving forward for UNDESA, I would start by saying that it's important that this conversation is framed under the broader conversation of the Kazan Action Plan. If the UNESCO is leading an initiative to understand the impact of sports in general with the SDGs in general, where is a digital technology in this like big machine that they are putting together? So to go to to your second question, how does the new era of sports and physical activities will look like? I think it's informed and scientific, meaning we get better cost benefit for the dollar we invest in developing sports, and how we do it smartly is by measuring and connecting this measure to a global database that gives us some objective indicators to understand if it's true that sports are indeed being a tool for peace and for change. So assistive technology to measure and digital technology to measure, map and measure, and digital technology to bring in new people with disabilities and people in general. What is the app that is going to tell me that in this neighborhood in Honduras, they are doing assistive sports, for example? So I think that's kind of the mindset that we should have moving forward.
Richard, please. And then Joanna, I think you both put your hands up.
Just building on all the great comments, I think one of the next steps that in this dialogue is that technology is such a ubiquitous term. And so it's like, what are we talking about? And when I hear the dialogue happening and any questions around technology are relatively general. So, you know, like technology, are we talking equipment, clothing, facilities, spectators, the spectator experience, communications, competition, programming and curriculum, wearables, knowledge exchange, education, artificial intelligence? I think we need to break the term technology. It means a different thing to everybody because of their particular context. So I think as a next step in building on what Juan has said is to start to break down this dialogue so that it's you know, it's more specific, and then you layer on that the money, the accessibility, the employment, the measurement, the digital literacy onto those 9 items that I identified. Then we start to actually have a much more sophisticated discussion around technology. Thank you.
It's a term as broad as sport in itself, Richard, I suppose is the problem. Joanna, you'd also raised your hand.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just thought I'd add a perspective from the spectatorship experience as well in terms of sports. And I think technology is really key to not only ensure access to attending live games or following sports from home, but it's also essential in ensuring a choice and a dignity for disabled people as well. And just to give a good practice example, UEFA uses technology to provide audio descriptive commentary within a stadium, and they use a system that allows a spectator to tune in from their own personal radio or compatible smartphone, and they're able to sit wherever they want in the stand. So it enables that person to have a choice. And the same applies to ticketing as well, and that's where technology is key. There's a big issue where a lot of tickets for disabled fans are not added into online ticketing portals, and where they are, there's a real lack of information about where that seat is, and so we need to make sure that technology not only enables access to spectatorship opportunities, but also that it enables a choice so that disabled people can really be on a level playing field. Thank you.
I'm very conscious of time. Thank you all. I see Paul's comment in the chat, which I fundamentally agree with as well. So Chisholm, as we report back, I think we're hearing things like ensuring technology doesn't open the gap, ensuring that different voices are heard, being more precise, being more scientific, and ensuring that what happens here is framed under the Kazan action plan. This is not a new solution in itself. It's about moving towards the areas that the sector and the world has already agreed. I could have talked to any one of you for 40 minutes very easily. So talking to all of you has been a challenge. And Venya noted the suggestion of hackathons as well there at the end in the chat. I think there will now be a 10-minute break before the main chat rejoins. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Gracias, Juan.
Sarah, let's connect.
Definitely. It's great to see you again.
Good to see you too.
So now, in a few minutes, you'll be transferred back to the plenary room. So if you can just close the camera or just take your comfort break, and soon you'll be in the plenary room, and you'll hear about the other groups as well, about their discussions.
Great. Thank you, Gabrielle. Chisholm, thanks for taking such great notes for us.
Obrigada, Gabriel. Prazer te encontrar aqui.
Feliz. Muito obrigado.
Kátia, prazer também. Vamos conectar também. Quero conectar.
Olá, eu estava tentando identificar teu accent. Falei, nossa, parece tanto português.
Vou pegar seu contato com o Gabriel, tá? Da gente conversa.
Muito obrigada. Prazer.
Prazer.